Hello everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take another look at GMT, see what's going on. I did mention yesterday in our video that we are looking at a potential cup and handle pattern. Well, we got the cup, but the handle broke off and really didn't need to happen. So really cool stuff in that sense. We'd love to see that. But now what we're doing is we're in price discovery. We want to kind of anticipate what's going to happen next and just, big picture, how much further is it going to go on this run if it were to, okay? So now, not a financial advisor. I love teaching people how to trade. I hope you can learn something here today. And my passion is to help you become a better trader. So I've got a website designed with that specific purpose. CryptoCache.tech is a link in the description below. If you want to become a community member, one of over 300 plus. And what we do is we all learn and grow together. And I provide you with a trading academy, teaching you how to trade, as well as a trading signal group where I share every single trade that I took. And the trades I took recently, this is potentially one of those. In fact, it hasn't yet, just based on the fact that it took off, and I wanted to make sure that we weren't too late to the game. But generally speaking, this is a coin that I have my eyes on. All right, and regarding how well it's doing here, let's go ahead and take a look. First of all, let's look at some of the obvious stuff here. First of all, the previous resistance here that wasn't broken through yesterday. I think the price is somewhere right in here at this range. We saw that this was a resistance level. So the potential thought process was that we would get a cup, right? Come up here and we get the price to come down to the next key level Fibonacci retracement and then continue to bounce upwards. It didn't do that. It continued much higher, much faster. And a lot of that has to do with Bitcoin recovering well in the last 24 hours. GMT did perfect in that regard. And as you can tell, it's actually done very well overall too when you think about it, because if you look at the previous data here, Bitcoin was on the downtrend this entire time and GMT went all but sideways. Okay, so most coins would have went like this. GMT kind of went like that. So it's a very, very good sign in a sense if you kind of compare that with the most behavior for other coins in the market. Okay. And it really just kind of tells us that its average true range hasn't been established yet, being a newer coin as of March 9th. Okay, so it's ICO March 9th, and here we are a few weeks later, and it's doing very well. That being said, we're now in price discovery, and we'll go ahead and talk about that in a moment, but I just want to kind of reiterate the fact that this previous resistance, we got to close above that. Fantastic start. Today, the price comes down to essentially bounce off of this key level support, the previous resistance level of $3.13. So if you're new to just trading in general, a previous resistance will establish itself as a new support, especially in price discovery where the price has never been there before. And it's common for the price to consolidate at that point. When it does, then you can expect the price to leg up. So oftentimes a good entry point is right at this previous resistance level to ensure that it continues higher from there. Obviously, if the price goes lower, different story altogether, but this is exuding perfect behavior there, if you will, of that continuation pattern. We're also still above 70 on the RSI, and I mentioned yesterday that I like to see this on the 1 day. It's a very healthy sign, especially considering the fact that it's been above 70 on the RSI for the most part, minus just a couple of days here in the last week. And that's a very, very good sign. The fact that it broke cleanly above again here tells us this momentum is going to continue, and of course, nice little MACD convergence there as well on the 1 day. Again, a handful of positive stuff here. Now, how much longer will this continue? Let's go ahead and take a look and try to be realistic here. We're at a 7 on TD sequential. So the likelihood of the price continuing higher from here for a long time is lower. In other words, we've probably got about 8 hours more continuation of the upside before we start seeing some selling off. The standard deviation is something we also want to take a look at on the lower time frames, but generally speaking, this could very well be outside those standard deviation lines, and that could cause a potential problem later. Now, for right now, it's all well and good. I don't think it's going to just be a major, sell-off. We've established that $3.13 is likely a strong support. That should continue. But big picture here on the 4 hour, we are slightly overextended. We're at a 7 out of 9, and we only have hypothetically 8 more hours left of continuation of the upside before we should experience some type of retracement. Once again, that retracement may not be as significant. It could just come down to the next key level Fibonacci, or it could even be right here because the price might continue higher. But the bottom line is that we can't anticipate that specifically, but we can understand that we're near the end of this little push, if you will. Now, granted, Bitcoin breaks 42,000 today, we might actually see GMT continue. However, if Bitcoin, we see a correction down to 40,000, for example, we'll probably see some sideways action from GMT, but I don't think we're going to see a price point lower than $3.13 based on how well it performed. Came up, literally came back down to bounce exactly off that previous resistance. It's uncanny how specific that was. So Interesting coincidence, but that's kind of where we're at. And we also have this ascending trend line here that even though this little correction here did come below, it still was held by the 50-day SMA, and that's a really good sign. So all in all, this trend line, excuse me, is ascending on the 1 day to effectively give us that continuation. So heaven forbid the price were to go sideways for some time, we could expect 313 to continue to maintain itself, and that we shouldn't see a price point lower than that. Again, really good stuff here in that sense. Taking a look at the 1 hour, this is where it probably gets interesting. We can see this last hour, it's taken off quite significantly. Once again, Bitcoin is testing 41,600, a key level resistance, and it's shooting off right now. It's a very, very good sign, but what we want to look at is, again, overextension and C, which is nice here too, because you see we came up to a 9, we got a little bit of extra overtime there. Price came back down to inevitably hit a 6 and test that key level support and continue upwards. So the great news about this is we got a clean reset, so we literally have potential of, again, 8 to 9 more hours of continuation to the upside. So GMT should be continuing higher and further over the next 8 to 10 hours. Okay, so I'd say in the next 8 hours, we should experience GMT to continue to maintain this increased pattern and to effectively not come lower than 313. So again, simply put, $3.13 is the lowest point which we'll probably see for GMT. But keep in mind too, this is a very large candlestick for a 1 hour time frame. So this, this may not be the best amount of, actually, what I mean by that is, obviously there's a tremendous amount of volume to back that up. So this is perfectly fine. There's obviously no selling pressure. But you got to understand too that, when something goes up that fast and that quick, it'll put you outside of standard deviation, and that can cause a retracement. Let's just double check and see if we got the volume to back it up. Well, we don't have enough volume to back it up, even though there's a lot of volume in the last 45 minutes. If you look at this, we're well outside of their standard deviation lines here. So the volume weighted average price is telling us that as of right now, the price should be at $3.32. But based on the amount of volume that we have, it's outside of standard deviation line. We have twice as much price action than we do volume. So we could experience the price to come back down and retract. Okay, so I would expect the price to come down here back to about 350 at the very least in the immediate future to effectively be able to continue that that comfortable increase, because you get well outside the standard deviation lines, and you'll see this here in the past. It has to contract and come back down almost every single time. Okay, so we're kind of right there. We should experience the price coming down to about at least 355. All right, again, just the way that it should work based on standard deviation. That doesn't necessarily have to be foolproof. It's never guaranteed, but it's something to kind of rely on. So for lack of better terms, the easiest way to understand it is that the price is probably going to continue for another 8 to 10 hours to the upside or sideways. At that point, we want to experience or anticipate a potential retracement. What would be best is if the price does not come any lower than $3.42, because once again, that's a previous resistance level. The price had trouble breaking that plane on the Fibonacci, and that can establish itself as a new support. So I'd say pay attention to 340, maybe add to your position at 340, and if we lose that, add your position at 313 if it comes down that far. It probably won't, but that is a potential something we want to look at. Last thing to identify is how much further this could go. Based on its current momentum, if we were to maintain this volume for the next 24 hours and kind of have a nice rest and relaxation period, so to speak, at the end of that 4-hour overextension. In other words, here in 8 hours, if we see some price action go sideways for just say 12 to 24 hours, in the next 36 to 48 hours, we should experience a price point of somewhere in the range of $4 plus. $4.20 would be a best case scenario, but just bear in mind if we were to have a third green day, oftentimes the fourth day is a red day. So it's referred to as 3 white soldiers, and you can look that up. It's a candlestick pattern, and it's just something to be mindful of. It's never a guarantee, of course, because as you can see here, we had 5 white soldiers, if you want to call it that. So again, that's the thing about trading. You got to understand is there's a lot of potential statistics and a lot of things that are I don't know, it's hard to describe, but the best thing I can say to explain what I'm trying to communicate here is that when you look at TA and you're trying to look at all the stuff that we're looking at here, you try to extract as much information as possible to anticipate, which way it's going to go and how to best approach it. So every time frame tells a different story, and at this point, we're a little bit on the overextended side on the 1 hour, even though we have at least 8 hours worth of continuation likely to the upside. So just be mindful and be careful. Try not to go crazy bonkers with adding to your position. I would just add small amounts at a time if you were to. If this is something you want to invest in long-term, big picture, then make sure that you just add a little bit here and there. Try not to get too overzealous, because once again, fear of missing out can be a very terrible thing, but occasionally it works out advantageously. Either way, 313 is a new support, and we're going to go ahead and go from there. We'll take another look at this one here again tomorrow. I hope you found benefit, of course. Look forward to working with you. If you want to become a better trader, CryptoCache.tech is a site. Link in the description below. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one.